Y'all saw Tally. She just got beat up. She's been in an abusive relationship. She is addicted to drugs. I like challenges like that because that's out of my sphere of experience, to be honest with you. So that's stuff I gotta research. That's stuff I gotta like. And that's why I love acting, because I get to step into the shoes of someone I've never experienced before. So I really have always loved Tally.
We have our special guest in the building. Let's give her a round of applause. Really quick, I just want to let everybody know who are not following This Is Hip Hop Radio. My name is LS, and we are blessed today to have the talented, beautiful, you've seen her in roles on SWAT, The Oval, Orville, Cursed, and most recently, Ruthless. You know what? Let me really quick. I want to tell you this right now. Me and my wife, we were watching the series, right? And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. This really looks like The Oval, because I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, this is the spin-off, dummy. Hello. So we have the beautiful and talented Yvonne Senat Jones from Ruthless. Everybody say hello. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful, LS. I'm so happy we were able to get this together. I know we were like back and forth, so I'm really appreciative.
Yes, and I definitely appreciate it. Yes, it was definitely a tough task, and we could talk about that behind the scenes, right? But we got you here now, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we definitely appreciate you for giving us this opportunity, because this is something that I've really been anticipating. Salute to Hustle Jones, who has been working behind the scenes, yes, you know, to help us make this possible. So we definitely gonna get right into it. We ain't gonna waste no time. We're gonna get right into it. First and foremost, how you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great. I heard you do the little throwback to my show Cursed that's on Amazon right now. That was like my first ever gig. It was one of those shows that you do the reenactment, so you have to do it again. And I was playing this Haitian ex-girlfriend who put some kind of voodoo curse on my ex. I was like, why do the Haitians always have to have voodoo curses?
No question. No. Now, let me ask you this real quick, right? Because you're from Bolivian and Haitian descent. Mm-hmm. So was that just a coincidence, or was it like tailored for you?
They wanted a Haitian. And they saw that I was Haitian.
Wow.
No experience with voodoo. In fact, I'm a pastor's kid, actually. I'm a PK. So, but I was like, hey, yo, it's a credit. So.
Right. Hey, you know, and salute to all the Haitians who are watching. Salute to all the Bolivians, all our melanated Black people. You know, salute to everybody watching. We cover the whole spectrum in this whole thing here. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So, absolutely. So you're originally from Dallas, Texas, right?
Yes, yes.
So let's talk about it. So growing up in Dallas, Texas, and being Bolivian and Haitian, coming up as a young girl in this world, right? How was that for you in the South?
You know, that would be a beautiful question. Actually, my mom and I moved from Dallas after I was born, like a year later. So I grew up in Cali, but I did go back to the South, to South Carolina to get my master's at University of South Carolina. And that was my first experience living in the South. And actually, it was a wonderful experience. Obviously, coming from California, all the California people were like, you're gonna go all the way over there?
Right.
Yeah, everybody had a lot of Southern hospitality, the people I stayed with, everything. I did notice personally the difference between California and where I was in South Carolina. It's more segregated, I would say. Everybody's much more in their own groups there. From my experience, and that was like 10 years ago, compared to Cali. You know, Cali's a melting pot. Everybody comes here. So everybody's just kind of amongst themselves, you know?
Yeah.
But growing up out here, it had its own things because it's the 80s, you know? It was like Afro-Latina wasn't a thing. You know, you're just black or you're Latin or you're white or something. That was all we had, you know? And now I just watched like a Netflix movie that my girlfriend and Angelica is in, and they had like an Afro-Latina speaking Spanish like it was nothing. And I was like, oh, my heart, I wish that was the case when I was a kid, but you know, at least it'll be for all of our people out here.
Definitely, definitely. So you speak fluent Spanish. Was Spanish your first language?
Sí, fue mi primer idioma. Yes, it was my first language. I know I had to do that, right? To prove it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you would, at first glance, you couldn't really tell. For anyone, they couldn't tell that you speak a different language, or that English was really not your first language, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was my girl Irene Brown from Ruthless is in the building. Hey! But absolutely, yeah. It was growing up. It was hard because I mean, I just talked to my girlfriend who's Puerto Rican and she's from New York. She's like, girl, if you grew up out there, you would have been fine because all the Cubanos, Puerto Ricans, like Dominicans, they're on the East Coast, right? Out here in Cali, it was just like, who are you?
Exactly. You know what kills me is that out here on the West Coast, because I'm from the East Coast. So out on the West Coast, people like to classify you as just like Mexican and that's it. And I'm like, no. I mean, we grew up with everybody, you know, Cubans, Colombians, Dominicans, everyone, you know. It's Puerto Ricans, of course. And, you know, a lot of the Latin community, some of them consider themselves black. But when you come over like toward the West and the Midwest, they don't really consider themselves black, you know, or I would say African descent. They don't say that. And it's real culture shock, you know. So it is definitely. So coming up, growing up, did you have like any type of identity crisis with your peers because you were little?
Yeah, you know, I did because it was just hard to find that space. And I think that's what everyone does, right? They try to find like, okay, where do I fit in?
Yeah.
But it's like, I felt like I fit in the most when I got to high school because junior high was hard. It was out here in Long Beach. You know, I love Long Beach. But it was definitely very much like in a public school setting with a lot of people, everyone started grouping up, like, and you pretty much group off of your ethnicity, right? But my dad, who raised me, so I'm close to my biological dad, but I'm also was raised by my stepdad since I was 3, and he's white. He's from the Midwest. So then my upbringing was like Latin and white. So it was very hard to fit in. And it's funny because my little sister, who had, you know, a black mom, black family that she was raised with, she was also, you know, stereotyped as, they like to use the word Oreo, or, you already know these words, you know.
Absolutely.
But it's like, it's kids, and it's everybody trying to identify themselves, you know, and honestly, I think you become better for it because you just realize at the end of the day, black is so broad. Black doesn't
Yes.
one kind of person, right? Like, we all come from either the South or the North. Like, that's gonna itself separate us, right, into different like personalities and stuff. So once you start getting older, I think that's when you start accepting like, I am black, I am also Latina, and I'm a woman, and this is what you get. You know?
Exactly.
Other people for who they are too. And their differences. I think that's what happens as you start getting more mature. But yeah, I went through an identity crisis for sure growing up, trying to figure it all out. So, but it makes us stronger, right? I'm sure you had your own, right? It's not just a one, just for being mixed, that's not it. I feel like everybody has their different crises for different reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Only if you're the darker you are and the who you grew up with, you may identify as just black, like myself. You know, I have Cuban and black, you know, in my family. So
Okay.
a lot of people would, you know, even if I grew up on my Cuban side, I still, it still would, you know, you could say, oh, well, I see it. He's a darker Cuban.
Yeah.
You know, but I would be considered as black.
Yeah, yeah, because it's America, and so that's even different. We were just talking with our British friend, and shout out to Zach Graves, who plays Yancy on Ruthless, even though Tally's not happy with you right now. Right now, but Zach is cool people.
Yeah.
Friend, she's from the UK, and she's like, this, like, the dynamic here is definitely a lot different than a place where all the countries are like this. It's almost like the United States. It's like all the countries are packed together, so you got people all in and out, you know. So it's just, it is what it is. And thankfully it's I personally feel like we're progressing to becoming more accepting of ourselves and celebrating our differences, and for that I'm grateful for my future kids. I have no kids yet, but I'm grateful for that, for our future, what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot different. So you actually developed your love for acting in college, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you first went to El Camino, right? And then you transferred to Cal State.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate assessment? Okay. So with out there in Cal State, right? Going to Cal State, what was it that drew you to acting first and foremost?
I took a year and a half off. It's LA, so I figured I would be a model, like all the girls. But after a year, it wasn't fitting for me. So my mom was like, "You have to go back to school." And so I took a class in everything I kind of liked, and one of them was acting. I took acting.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I performed, though, I'll tell you, I was so nervous. I was shaking. My voice was shaking. I had braces at like 20 years old. I had braces. My mouth was so dry, I couldn't get my lips over my braces. It was a traumatic experience. And so it's like, why did you choose to be an actor? I think like I ended up doing some improv and things like that. And when I realized, if you're not thinking about the audience, or if you're not thinking about like, what are the people thinking who are watching me, and you just kind of go into the flow of the scene, it's almost a like an out-of-body experience, you know. It's like so gratifying, and that's what drew me to it. Was I did an improv scene, and it really felt like I was in it, and it just was so satisfying. So that's what got me started, and then I made it my major. Went to Cal State Long Beach, got my bachelor's. Was blessed to get a full ride scholarship to South Carolina University of South Carolina. Got my master's. So it's been great. I'm really, really blessed. Yeah.
So that's where you actually caught your bug in Cal State. So then when you went on, when you went on to further and get your master's, that's when you actually said, I think this is something that I want to do.
Well, I definitely, once I knew if I was going to get a degree in it, I was doing it. I was like, we ain't spending it for nothing.
And you actually taught as well.
Yeah.
And tell us about that experience. What gravitated you towards doing that?
That's what they made you do to get a degree, to get a master's. We had to teach Theater 101. So I had students my age that I was teaching as undergrads, or students older than me. I was their theater teacher for 2 years. And in fact, it was awesome because I still have people hitting me up, like my students who see me on TV and things like that. So that's what got it started, was to get my master's. You had to teach. But then when I graduated, I realized when it comes to arts, and maybe if anybody out there studying the arts, you don't have to pass the teaching, test that they do to be a teacher. If you're teaching the arts with like a nonprofit, you just have to have an advanced degree. So I started teaching with a nonprofit to schools that couldn't afford the arts for after school, and it's so satisfying. I feel like when you're an actor, you have to do something that gives back, because if it's all about you, how many times do you book a year? Maybe on like one hand, right?
Yeah.
So you got to fill that time with something that satisfies you and feels like you're giving back, you know? So that's teaching. That's what teaching has been for me. Yeah.
Wow. And the that was City Hearts LA, right? That's where you. Yes, yes, yes. Shout out to everybody over there.
For them, for they always have a challenge every year, and so I'm going to be a judge for them this year, which is so awesome. So yeah, I love that group, City Hearts LA. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I know it's going to be pandemonium when you come back because everybody's gonna. But you know what? You're actually going to give them, being a judge but coming back, you're actually going to give a lot of people hope. And they said she was here.
Yeah.
So if she, you know, I mean, even the ones that don't go to school for, you know, for theater and things of that nature, but the ones who actually just get push and have the drive to do it, because it's not easy. A lot of people think that acting is easy, and it's not.
No. All the people
No.
all my big time actors in here, Irene and stuff, we could testify it's not easy. But you know, honestly, if you love it, what is easy? Like, what's really easy? You know what I mean? Like, everything has a challenge to it for the most part. So you might as well challenge yourself with something that fulfills you, right? So I might as well.
And so let's go on to your first role. So actually, I wanted to ask you, how did you land that first role? I know we have some questions coming up. Guys, just pause for a minute. I want to have my dialogue with her before you guys take over the show. All right. So yeah. So basically, how did you land your first role? I believe your first role was in what was it? The Bobby Brown.
That was my first big role.
Breakout,
yes.
Correct?
My breakout role, I would say. Go ahead.
No. I said the character was Robin Crawford.
Oh, yes. Robin Crawford, she played not played, but she was, you know, the best friend of Whitney Houston since they were teenagers. And so you know, and they had a really close relationship at the time. Yep. They didn't know like what the extent of the relationship was when the movie came out. So we just played it as what we knew, which was that their relationship, their friendship was really close. So I actually auditioned, and this is why I feel like, I'm gonna just testify for a second. This is why I feel like what's for you is for you, is because I auditioned for the role basically in October in LA with my LA agent. Okay. Get a call back. And then I auditioned for, I got myself a East Coast agent. They didn't know I had auditioned. They submitted me. And so that way in January or February, they were still looking. They submitted me. I auditioned. From them, it was like chemistry read, callback, like fly to Atlanta. And it's just like, you know, so for me, like how often do you get to audition for the same role twice, right?
Right.
Never. So for me, I felt like that was for me, you know, and I feel like that's what it is for us when we're auditioning. It's like, if you don't book something, something's on its way just for you, that no one is not for anybody else. You know, that's what I believe.
Yeah, and usually if you get a callback for the second time to read again, you're getting a little bit closer to it. It's like, okay, so even if they had someone else in mind, but it was something that you had and you gave to the character, that was like, wait a minute, we got to rethink this over. So how did that actually make you feel when you actually got the call and they said, no, we want you?
It was such a long process. I went in actually for Whitney Houston the first 2 times. I went in for the role of Whitney. And then beautiful, wonderful Gabrielle Dennis booked it, and she's phenomenal in it. At which point Robbie Reed circled back around and said, can we have her read for Robin? Because she actually looks more like Robin. And I do. I look more like Robin Crawford than like Whitney. And so they circled back around. So it took several weeks for all this to happen. So when it finally happened, it was like a relief that it was all worth it. And I know, like, oh, thank God. And it just was really, it was great confirmation because I had finally left my job of 15 years. I had worked at T-Mobile as a sales rep for all through undergrad, all through grad school, back and forth summers,
Yeah.
and 2 years after I graduated. So I felt peace about leaving, and 2 months later, I was in Atlanta filming Bobby Brown. So for me, it was God, like, just stay on this path. I got you. Like, you're doing the right thing. So it was awesome.
Wow. And you know what? One thing that I know is that when you work hard for something and you finally get it, it's a relief. But then when you're in it, you're like, okay, here we go. Now I wanted this. I prayed for it. I read for it. I did everything. I worked all of this. I worked hard. I worked all this time. And now we're here. So now I have to deliver and perform.
Yeah.
How was that pressure?
Y'all, preparation, preparation, preparation. And thank you for everybody who's saying all these kind words on here. I'm trying to catch them all.
Love you. They love you.
Love y'all. Thank you. We have the best fans. Ruthless has the best fans. It's just gotta say.
Yes, yes, you guys do. Believe it.
But preparation, like, you better be off book and be professional, you know, and be grateful and generous, you know, to different people. It's funny because I worked with Brandy Evans, who is now the lead in P-Valley, and we like barely worked together, but obviously, like, you know, we were both great with each other. And then one day I had an audition back out here in LA, and I needed help putting myself on tape last minute for something else, and we were both at the audition at the same time. She remembered me and she was like, girl, I'll help you. And she helped me do like 7 takes, and we submitted it. I didn't book it, but the fact that, like, had I not been a good person to her, I would have missed out on a friend. And it, you know, you never know when you're going to see people again. So just be consistently kind and a good person, and be extra prepared, because you don't want to be on any of these sets, let alone a Tyler Perry set, any of these sets, like scrambling for lines and scrambling for an idea of what you want to do. So just be prepared, work your butts off, and then relax once you're in there and just trust yourself. Yeah. Right.
And how did the Oval come about? Was that because of the job that you did there, or what did that actually kind of fall into your lap? Because, you know, then.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Go ahead.
Because then it turned into Ruthless. Right? You know, this industry, it takes time. I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I would have told myself early on. Like, it's okay if it's going to take a little time. So I got called into Kim Coleman's office, but I had been trying to get into Miss Kim Coleman's office for several years. So anytime I got even a small audition from her, I sent a thank you card. And I wrote down in my Excel sheet, I have an Excel sheet that says what the role is, who the casting associate I talked to or read with is, what the address is. And I always followed up with a thank you card, and, you know, again, just trying to build a relationship in some way. And so I just would send a thank you, remember the person's name. I come back in like, hey, Ryan, because these people are working their butts off too, so they deserve
absolutely.
Respect. And I believe because of that, then it became more of not just a name, but a person. It's like, oh yeah, Yvonne, bring her in for this. So it took me over a year to get called in for bigger roles with Miss Kim Coleman's office. And then she called me in like for 4 different things, big series roles, all at the same time for Mr. Perry. And I had come in with Sisters to do a callback, didn't book it.
Wow.
Didn't book it, it was for Karen. And weeks went by, I saw some friends get started on the show on the Oval and on Sisters, and it was disappointing, you know? But then Hallie got re-released. The role just came available for the Oval. And I came into Miss Kim Coleman's, I was prepared, I ran it at home. To be honest with you, I suggest, obviously it's self-tape now, so you don't have to go in anymore, but I was doing an audition at the house in front of the camera to see what I would look like before I went in to do it in front of Miss Kim Coleman. So I could tweak.
Oh, so that was, yeah, that's like a, your own screen test, basically.
Yep, exactly. Because I wanted to see if what I'm trying to do is reading. So that's why I have the footage of it, even though it wasn't a self-tape, because I did it at the house first, in front of my husband, who helps me out, gives me a little direction. Probably like
so really quick, let the people know who Kim Coleman is, for those who don't know.
Oh, yes. Miss Kim Coleman is one of the top casting directors in Los Angeles. She's casting a new Space Jam. She's just been in the game for so long. She's an
Yeah.
incredible woman. She's a beautiful Black woman, and she is just running the game right now, like just at the head. And to be honest, with all of the people in our community, she casts most of the Black projects. You have Miss Leah Daniels Butler and Miss Kim Coleman and Miss Robbie Reed. Those are the beautiful women who are casting us in these projects. So, it's so good to make sure you're doing a great job, because think about it, if I had like blown any of those auditions by not being prepared or anything, I wouldn't have made it to Tally, because their reputation's on the line. They're not going to keep bringing in somebody who makes them look bad. So as long as you're prepared, it doesn't matter if you don't book it, just know that you feel like you did your absolute best, because that's all you can do, right? So
Absolutely.
that's what, yeah, so Miss Kim Coleman is definitely someone you want to go in for.
Yeah, I just had to let you express who she is, because there's a lot of people who want to follow in your footsteps, and they need to know exactly who these people are. So it's
Yeah,
always good to, and just, and for Black women as well, because we definitely have to look out for each other. We look out for everyone, but we definitely have to look out for each other. So
absolutely.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I've always felt like what's for me is for me. So I've had women in the audition room, like girlfriends of mine, be like, "Hey, girl, did you get the new sides? Here's the new sides," and they give it to you. Sides being the script, because if
Absolutely.
you go in thinking like, "No, I gotta hold on to it. I can't," if it's for me, if it's mine, it's mine. If it's yours, it's yours. So I agree with you 100%. Like, we're in this together. Me, you, there, like everybody. There's enough for everyone to eat, is what I'm saying. There's enough.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So you land the role of Tally on Oval, right? So when you get this role and you're like, okay, and you're reading this person's character, what was your first thought when you said, wait a minute, I got this role of this person here?
Hmm. Hmm. I liked
What was
her.
your first?
I liked her. I like playing women, and shout out to my primita, my cousin who's on here, Miss DG. um, I like playing women who I like playing out of my brand. I do enjoy getting all pretty and dolled up, and that's great. But Tally was going to come in rough. Y'all saw Tally. She just got beat up. She's been in an abusive relationship. She is addicted to drugs. I like challenges like that because that's out of my sphere of experience, to be honest with you. So that's stuff I gotta research. That's stuff I gotta like. And that's why I love acting, because I get to step into the shoes of someone I've never experienced before. So I really have always loved Tally. Tally on Oval and Tally on Ruthless. She is just like, she's so complex, because Mr. Perry writes very complex women. He's like
Yeah,
Tennessee in that way, that he's gonna, if you're a woman, you have complexities and you have contradictions, and you are not just one dimensional based off of how you and a man are getting along. So that's what I loved about Tally, is that she was out of the box of what I would maybe typically get cast for. And then I got to
yeah,
play her so long. I mean, I've been playing her. So because I just thought it was going to be Oval. And then here
exactly.
Ruthless. And it's like, I get to stay as Tally. I'm so excited.
How was that when you actually when Tyler Perry actually tells you that you get the role? See, I know that you actually sent him a letter, a thank you letter, like you do everyone, right?
Okay.
And yes, and
Okay.
and he actually told you that you will be coming back. Now, how did that feel? First and foremost, to know that your character lives on, and also that you got a job too, right?
Yeah, that part.
Yeah,
For me, first and foremost, for me, I felt very accomplished because I wanted to do a great job. That's what it's all about. I can't express it enough. You have to do your best and leave great impressions. because things come back around, you know, like people talk to each other and stuff. So the fact that he said I did a good enough job that he would want to bring me back, for me was very satisfying as an actor. And then yes, it was like, I do hope that follows through, because that would be a nice paycheck. You know?
Yes.
And so yeah, a few months later I ended up getting some scripts with my name on it, and I was floored. I was so grateful. And me and Melissa actually worked together as scene partners at Tasha Smith's T-Saw Academy for Actors years prior. So we already had experience working together, which I personally believe was a blessing in and of itself, because their relationship is everything in this. You know, it's the Ruth and Tally, they're a sisterhood. So the fact that we already had experience working together was such a gift. And so here came a script with both of our names on it. And I was just like, here we go.
Go again, right? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So how much of you do you put into Tally?
I am like Tally in that I'm very supportive of my friends. I tend to really, you know, care deeply about my friendships and my relationships. I'm different from Tally in that Tally allows her anxiety to get the best of her a lot of the time. She's in a life or death situation though. Like, she's not just going to Starbucks and getting her order wrong. Like, she's issues happening.
Right, right.
Yeah, so keeping that in mind, like, I'm not mad at her for letting her anxiety get the most of her. But I do feel like we're similar in that we care deeply for the people in our lives. And that's why I love her, because she's a ride or die. You know, she's gonna roll with Ruth to the bitter end. So I love her for that. Yeah.
No doubt. You know, watching it and just watching how Tally is when she's trying, because I'm watching like the first season. So watching all of the adversity that she has to go through and everything that she has to endure with filming that, right? Let's talk about that really quick. So filming these intense scenes that she has, whether it's she's getting chastised or whether she's not getting through to Ruth, right? These intense scenes, how do you prepare for that? Because I know it has to be exhausting, because you did a real good job. You're very convincing on screen, I'm gonna tell you that. Very convincing.
Thank you so much. You know, Nyreen can declare this, Zach, and all our people who are on here. Tyler Perry is the boot camp for acting. It's a boot camp for acting, because you're doing one take, period. There's no option for take two. One take. It's like theater. So you need to be off book. You need to know, you know, he'll give you your blocking, as in he'll tell you where to go at the top of the scene. So you need to remember that, because the cameras are going to be working around you. But once it's a go, you just got to go. So to be honest, I do like that, because then you don't have to keep doing the punishment drill over and over again. You have to keep like reliving, you know. But it was a challenge, and I think leaving that set, you feel unstoppable. You feel like I can do anything if I survived this. So I love the experience, and it definitely boosted. It was like grad school all over again. It boosted my confidence so much more, you know.
Wow. And because he comes from the theater background, he brought that into his method of filming and creating. So you guys get an intense, I guess, education, I should say, in how that was. Like most of the actors, if they have never come from theater before, and they're coming into this, and they're used to doing, okay, well, in this movie, they let us do it 3 times until we got it right. It's not like that with him.
No.
How challenging is that, though? How challenging is that? Like, is it like a mind scramble?
I'll be honest. So with Bobby Brown, we didn't do too many takes. And that was my biggest experience on a set.
Okay.
To Tyler Perry, for me, just felt like a play. And since I came from theater and doing plays, we would have to do a play. Shout out to my hubby who's on here.
Damn, definitely.
Chuck Jones in the building. It's coming from theater. We would have to do. We would be doing two plays at the same time. And I remember I had the best role. I loved it. Streetcar Named Desire, Tennessee Williams. And you, as Blanche Dubois, I was only not on set for 2 scenes out of like 30. So when I got that script, I just treated it like a play. And I said, I'm memorizing this from beginning to end, and we're just gonna go. And so that's what I did. And I'm so glad I did, because we would bounce around so much, And some people memorize. Yeah. I know some people on the set who could just memorize like this right before. And I was like, I could never. But everybody has to find their own style that works for them. Yeah. So I was actually really grateful that this was almost my first major experience, because then the transition into being able to do it multiple times, I think, is easier than going from multiple times to one and done,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was your biggest, who was your biggest, I would say, not your influence, but who helped you with transitioning to that style of filming? Like, who was your biggest help?
Melissa was my biggest help, because we had together that first season, a ton of scenes together, and she is committed to, that's why she's #1 on the call sheet, because she can handle it. So she would commit to rehearsing with me, even though she had like all these other scenes with other people. We would just run lines really quickly right before, we'd do like a speed. So I would just shoot lines at her for her next scene, and she'd shoot them back, and then she'd go. Or same for me, we just run it really quickly right before the scene, in the holding area, and then we just go. So she, on the cast, because we have so many scenes together, was the help for me. And I think just in general, my grad school background with my teaching and my professors, that's been the biggest help for me in my career in general. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you're doing an awesome job. So I just can't wait to see what's next. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But I want to stay here for a minute, because I wanted to ask you, so with this cult-like situation, right? It's a cult that Tally's in, and Ruth, right? But how much of that did you have to, or did you study cults in order to like make it more realistic?
Absolutely, because Mr. Perry based it off of several cults. So there's Wild Wild Country is a Netflix documentary. It was based off of that. One of them, the Nawabian, there's a Nawabian group that came out of Georgia, and they were all Black cult, which I know within the community, everyone's like, not me. I'm not the one.
Right.
But it happened, and he had a massive following of, of people who were like hundreds of people. And eventually, thankfully, he got caught, because he was doing a lot of sex trafficking, a lot of drug trafficking, just a lot of criminal activity. So I studied those. I watched, Melissa and I actually both did, because we were the only cult members in Oval. So we would be in our dressing room watching Wild Wild Country in preparation for our scenes, to kind of get in the idea of like, what is a cult, and watching all these YouTube interviews with women who look just like us, who were just explaining they thought it was one thing, and then they flipped the script, but they were so devoted to the idea by that point that they just stayed, or their family was in it, or their, they just were afraid of what the outside world looked like. So it allowed me to really empathize with these women, because it's just manipulation by a very good manipulator. And it can happen to anyone, which is why I think Mr. Perry always likes to do preventative work. Like, hey guys, keep an eye out for this.
Right.
To this.
Exactly. So being that you is you're a preacher's child, right? And you
PK.
do ministry yourself, right? So we could have said Minister Yvonne Senat Jones, and we're gonna get into that as well. Hey, listen. You don't know how I was trying to keep my profanity to a 1, not a 2, to a 1, right? No, I'm just teasing. But
I'm not that kind of PK. I promise you. I promise you, I'm not that kind
no,
of.
I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing. But I wanted to bring that up because with playing this type of role, right, and knowing your faith, knowing and doing this research,
Mhm.
how much of that helped you, or I would say how much of that made you want to be a lot more aware and conscious of what's going on in the world, being that you know this stuff is going on and you know how you feel about your faith.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I Yes, I think it's very important for me with my faith, which is why I was like, you could cuss up a storm, we're good.
I
No judgment. Is that
don't really cuss with women anyway, so it's all good.
that's a good rule. That's a good rule, you know. um, but I I very much am very affected by my relationship with God. And I feel like that's what it's about, is a relationship where there's like a full acceptance of me by God. And I feel like that is huge. In fact, my grandma, my abuelita, before she passed, she had time with all of her grandkids. And for me, she said in Spanish, Dios te ama tal como eres. And what that means is God loves you just the way you are. So for me, I think that's where we can sometimes fall victim within religion. Now, you're right. I do minister. I do go to church. I'm not anti-organized religion, but I think it comes out of a place of fellowship. Like, we're here to fellowship with each other and lift each other up and encourage each other, keep each other strong, and not about, you better make sure you're doing XYZ, and you better make sure you're checking this off the list. Because for me, I know, like, that was so freeing for me when I realized God loves me just the way I am. And because of that love, I want to love other people. So it's you got to be careful, because it can happen and it kind of starts off within religion. A lot of these cults started in a religious, like, definitely Jim Jones as a pastor.
Yeah.
He's the biggest one. And people were going to,
Mhm.
they just thought it was a regular church. And he was like seeping in these things that, if you don't realize God loves you exactly the way you are, and you don't have to do all these things that this man is telling you you need to do to be accepted, then that's a really good telltale for you. Like, let me take a step back and re-examine where I am. So hopefully that makes sense. But I think that's where
No,
it becomes a little
it
shady.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Just being, on the show, the highest, he's like Jim Jones on steroids. You know what I mean? It's like he's like Jim Jones on steroids, and it's loosely based upon a bunch of different cults.
Yeah.
You know,
It's based off of Jim, for sure. The highest,
yeah,
definitely based off of Jim Jones. Even his charismatic way of acting. Yeah.
definitely. I sensed that right when I started watching it. I was like, before he even said it in the first couple of episodes, I was like, this is some Jim. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see how this, and the show draws you in. If this is not something that you would frequent and watch all the time, if you're not into it, it's definitely interesting with all the characters and the storylines. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I definitely wanted to ask you, with all the success that you've had and your gain, right? Because you're gaining a lot of popularity, a lot of success. So I'm just glad that I get a chance to get you at this level, because listen, let me tell you, you're like one of the biggest I've had on here right now, right? And I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm just happy to have you here. But with all the success that's coming with Ruthless and just your past work and your future work that come up and coming. How does your faith keep you grounded in this? Because you know this industry is really wicked and it can get crazy. You
Yeah.
know?
To be honest with you, I think that I will say I think Hollywood sometimes gets a bad rap for being like, you know, well, wicked. You know what I mean? I
Right.
think it can. But at the same time, I think like any field that you're in, that you allow yourself to lose yourself in order to rise up, it's the same thing. So any position you're in, whether it be, you know, whether you're in the, uh, you know, virtual world, digital world, or business world, finances, whatever, the biggest thing is you got to stay true to yourself, point blank, period. So for me, my faith, uh, I go by peace. When I have, and I feel like a lot of people know what it feels like when something is not right. You get this feeling in your stomach. It's like just an uncomfortable, sickening sometimes, almost like something's wrong. And I'm very
Yeah.
to that, right? And I feel like God is peace. And so when something is for me, I have peace about it, you know? I have a lot of peace about it. I remember being in a relationship with my husband when we were first dating, and I was like, this is too easy. Like, like fighting all the time? Like, shouldn't we be like, you know? But no, that's just unhealthy behavior and experiences. um, but peace there. And so for me, peace is my faith, as in like, I feel like that's how God talks to me, right? Because I don't feel like God personally gives me an audible, like, Yvonne, you know? But when I have peace and when doors open and when I just like pray and say, hey, God, this is what's on my heart, you know, that's my faith. And so I just trust him. I trust him that he loves me and he knows the desires of my heart and he'll open the right doors, and I don't have to compromise who I am in order for those doors to open on my own. So it's, you know, some might say it's risky, but I'd rather have that, right? It's better to what is it? It's better to what does it prosper a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul?
If
You
he
know,
loses his soul.
yeah, you don't want to be unhappy with who you are because you got somewhere you thought you were supposed to be. Just continue to be yourself and do your best, and those doors, they're gonna open. You just gotta keep doing, like, you know, Tyler Perry says, pray, work, believe, and repeat. Pray, work, believe, and repeat. And I have it on my wall because it's a good reminder. Like, this is just consistency, you know, and it'll happen. It'll happen.
It's funny that you mentioned him again because because I was thinking he runs it like a boot camp. So you guys actually filmed and you killed the season what, within 9 weeks or something like that?
9 days. 9 days.
Excuse me, 9 days.
9 days.
Heard of.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Heard of. 9 days. Wow. Okay. So please, I got a couple more questions before we get into a quick QA. But
no, let me do this though. I gotta ask my husband if he's on here to give me my charger because this is low on battery. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Give me 1 second.
Real life. Right here. Yeah, they say charge up. They don't want you to go nowhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you just let me know when you're ready.
Yo, you hear me? You see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, we good money. Okay. So, yeah, tell me about that process. 9 days. That's unheard of.
It is unheard of. It is unheard of. But you know, Mr. Perry is a genius because we get it done. And if he's raised the bar, but we're meeting it. So if you can cut down on your overhead by like, good Lord, I'm sure like 80%, because you're right, a whole series, 24 episodes, would take you 9 months normally. But because he just sets the bar high and is very specific with who he casts and knowing that they can bring it to the table, he's able to produce so much content at such a fast speed. So I have so much respect for him as a businessman because of that. But I say, like I said, for me, it was memorization, memorization, memorization. And then you go in and you get a list the night before of all of your scenes that you're going to be doing the next day. And so I had 2 binders, and I would just go through each of them and kind of like flip my pages and like mark them off. So I knew what I was going to be doing. And then I also personally, if I had already filmed one of the scenes before or after that one, I would write how it ended for continuity, because maybe I leave a scene crying and then the next scene I'm walking in, but I don't shoot that for another 3 days. I might forget. So I would write down in my binder that you were crying or you were angry or you were, you know, so that way when you guys see it, you just see a scene back to back. So
Yeah.
Because we move so quickly, that's what I would do. I would finish the night by just folding out all the pages we did, prepping all the pages we would do, and writing any notes that I need to remember for the future. And then I would just go, go, go. Like, you're done, and it's just like, what did I just do?
Intense preparation. That's intense preparation. So, really quick, the COVID thing. How do you guys keep each other safe? I understand you guys do testing on site, but how is that process like with just you guys coming to work and knowing that at any given time someone could say, hey, I'm not feeling well, and then they test positive, right? We're gonna definitely plead the blood over that, right? But you know, how does that make you feel? And more so, what are you guys doing individually? Do you guys talk about how you keep yourselves safe?
Well, I will say, before we even went on set, Mr. Perry was one of the few people who was providing the industry with literal PDFs of very highly researched procedures on how he was going to protect everybody. So he was talking to the mayor, he was talking to scientists, he was doing all his due diligence to make sure he was keeping us safe before he opened the studios back up in the bubble, because he knew that COVID was affecting Black people adversely higher than affecting other races, right? So he felt the, excuse me, there we go. So he felt the responsibility to protect us. And I felt very protected there, to be honest with you. I felt very safe. I felt like, you know, because you had to quarantine before you got there. You went on a plane, just the people who had tested negative for it. And then from there, you would test every 2 days. So and then people were there just cleaning the whole facility on a regular basis in all white with the masks, with the, you know, completely covered with the. So I felt so safe in that environment. I felt completely safe. Yeah.
Oh, he's a bad man for that. He's a bad man for that. Oh my goodness. Now you just gave me just more reason to fully respect him and everything that he's done. I mean, you know, beyond what he's accomplished, but just his genius and how he operates. That's incredible. So he's inadvertently training you guys to go on to do your own thing. So let's talk about this production company with you and your husband, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones. Let's talk about it. MFB Entertainment. Let's talk about it, please.
Thank you. So actually, yes. In fact, we just finished a shoot yesterday. We did some headshots for our friends. We're not, to be honest with you, because of COVID, we kind of shut it down just because we wanted to be safe. So
yeah,
even the fact that we were able to do headshots is only because we know that this is a particular family that we're close to that got tested and they're good to go. But regularly, we have created our production company to do films and short films and web series. And so getting to see Mr. Perry and how he works, oh, you better believe I'm taking notes. I'm taking so many notes because, you know, if you want to be successful, do what the successful people are doing. So for me, I see how he has everything running so smoothly. You know, and so that's our desire, is for our production company to provide opportunities for people of color all over the world. And that's, you know, similar to Viola Davis and how she got herself started, and then her and her husband now have the production company. So that's our heart, to do the same thing. Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. And you know, the best of luck to you guys. Much success, and you know, much love to you guys for that as well. So what's next for you? We do know Ruthless. You guys are still filming and shooting, but what's next for you?
Actually, I finished filming in Toronto. I booked the role of Denise King in Disney Plus's film Sneakerella. So it's like Cinderella, but sneaker culture. We're very excited about that. It's gonna have, I have, what is his name? Super tall, John Sally as the king. And then
Okay.
as my daughter from Little Fires Everywhere, and Robin as well, Robin Alomar. So it's going to be a really beautiful Black cast. They specifically wanted a royal family that was all Black. They wanted an all Black royal family. And for me, I thought that spoke volumes of what Disney's trying to do. And so it was a complete honor. It was one of the few times that the fact that I'm 5'9" was good, because John Sally is like 6'10". So with heels, I could still kind of be at his shoulder. It was crazy.
So yeah, my last question before I just let a couple of give you a couple of questions from the audience. How do you want to be remembered?
I like that question. I like that question a lot. I do want to be remembered for my talent. So for acting, you know, for being one of the greats in that field. That's what I want to be remembered by. And I also want to be remembered by my relationships, that I really cared for people, because people are the reason I actually got started with acting, because I got the opportunity to show the world people that maybe they wouldn't empathize with on a regular basis. But because they got to walk in those shoes, if that's the protagonist, all of a sudden they might understand someone who comes from an abused background, someone who is dealing with drug abuse, someone who is in a toxic relationship. So it would be for my gift, for my talent, which I believe is a gift, and also for how I cared for people. That would be how I want to be remembered.
Definitely. So really quick, just give the people where they can follow you. We definitely, and you know, just all your social media, and also plug the shows.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So you can find me on Yvonne Senat on all the platforms. You can see it right down there. And then you can check out Ruthless. We are now on network, baby. That's awesome. So we're on BET. Big house, big network, every Tuesday night at 10 after the Oval. And then you can watch our newest episodes on BET Plus for all of the new season 2 episodes. And I just love our fans. They are on literally, as soon as that thing drops on Apple TV, they're on it. So, yeah.
Well, we definitely thank you very much for, you know, just being a guest, giving us this opportunity to jump into your world and learn a lot more about you. You know, I didn't want to make it too much about Ruthless, but a lot more about you and your journey. But, you know, you gave us a lot today, so I definitely appreciate that, because I could be on here for about 2 hours and vibing like that, you know? I definitely, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just said you had wonderful questions, and you did your homework.
And you know, I left out a few because I was like, you know what? I don't want to keep her too long. So I left out a few. Plus, I know that there's a lot of people that want to say some things, and it would definitely just be a treat for them to actually be able to for you to answer their questions. So we're gonna do at least maybe 3 questions, and then we're gonna end. Okay.
Sounds good.
So let's try this one. She says, was it hard to do the punishment scene? It was upsetting to watch.
Yes.
Bethany too.
Yeah, thanks, Bethany. That's a really good question. I know it was hard to watch. It was hard for me to watch afterwards, honestly. But thankfully, it was safe. We had an incredible stunt coordinator who did everything for us to make sure we felt safe. And, you know, so then all the punching and hitting and things, they weren't even coming close to me. Also, I had a stunt double, wonderful woman, who came in and covered for me for a lot of the heavier stunts. So it did its job because it came off very scary and horrible to show how crazy this place is. But we as actors, you know, completely safe.
Definitely. Okay, so that was Bethany. Let's see. We got, okay. Oh, this is a good one. So this is from TP Ruthless fans.
Ooh, our Ruthless fans.
Yeah. So they say, Yvonne, I know that you are a minister. Did you struggle with whether or not to choose the role for Tally?
You know, I didn't, because originally Tally was in the Oval. And for me, I saw her as a woman that, you know, they said that they got her when she was addicted to drugs and looking for her daughter. So to me, she just seemed like a person, you know, a person that needed to be represented and kind of stood up for. So the fact that she's part of a cult, just, I think if anything, I think is very important for people of faith to acknowledge, like we said earlier, that depending on how people manipulate religion and faith and all those things, it can turn out to be very detrimental for people who just really want to have a relationship with God. So I definitely stand up for people like that who unfortunately are abused by people who are abusing their power. So that's why I felt like she needed a voice. And yeah. It's a great question. Great question. I love you guys. Tika is in charge of that group, and they are incredible.
And we got one more. Let's see. Okay, so one more. I'm trying to get the good ones, right? Okay.
They're all good. They're all good.
Yeah, a lot of them are just comments, right?
This one right here by Black Solutions. Oh, I love Black Solutions. In the comments, I can answer that one.
Go ahead.
What are some steps you take when preparing for an audition? What advice can you give young actors preparing for auditions? I tell everybody, and if you've been here, you've heard me before, get in a self-tape audition class, because you know, you have abilities and that's fine, but if you don't know the technique of something, it's the same as maybe you're really good with your hands, but if you haven't studied to be a surgeon, you're not gonna be allowed in the room. So I think you should get into a self-tape class. Mine has been Wendy Davis. I really love her. She just breaks it down really well. And she's on my page if you look up my page. But whatever you do, get into a self-tape class, because honestly, the world is self-tapes. We're probably not going to go back to going into casting offices anymore. There's no real reason to. So get really good at that, so you know your setup, you look professional, you have all the equipment you need. And from there, just, you know, do the work and be prepared and go in with show them who you are as the character. Don't try to show them who you think they want to see as the character. You know, what's your interpretation? Not like just yourself. Hey, this is just Yvonne being Yvonne. But how does Yvonne see this person? And then show them that. And if that's how they see it, you'll get hired. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we appreciate you for everything that you've given us, all the time that you've given us, and all the jewels that you dropped. You dropped a few bracelets, a couple of earrings, and a watch. So we definitely appreciate that. And, you know, much success to you and your family. Blessings to you and your family and your whole team. And just keep being great. Keep being great. Keep being great. And, we'll definitely continue to support you, watch you. And salute to all of her fans that are in here who love her. Go follow her. Send her DMs that you love the interview. Follow me back as well at This Is Hip Hop Radio. Thank you for the drops as well, because we're definitely playing that as we're playing music. So that's that. I love it. Thank you very much. And to those who are listening, thank you for listening. And everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. And I'm going to give you your night back. Thank you. I just want to end on this note. Those of you who know my slogan, always show love, always stay true. You never know who belongs to who. God over money, money under family. And we will see you next time. Thank you for being a guest.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for showing up, y'all, in the live. I appreciate you.
Take care.
Thanks.
In the city where I'm from, we was taught to never run. Always stood tall, couldn't back down. We be the ones in the middle of your party with our hands in the air. We couldn't help it, ladies like, who them niggas right there? Acting rowdy, niggas straight from Benjamin County. We all solid, ain't no fake ones around me.